They say, we don't work with agencies. And you ask, okay, sure, no problem, but is there any profile that you are struggling to find by yourself and that we could help you with? And that's an awful answer. And I'm going to explain you why, and I'm going to explain you how to handle the objection, we are not working with agencies. So it is a very bad way to handle this objection, and this for 3 reasons. The first one is that you can only answer this question by a yes or no. And you should never use those type of questions unless you want to close. So always ask open questions. Because if your prospect can choose between a yes or no, most likely he will choose the no. Why? Because even if it's not true, he wants to end the call as soon as possible. It is a sales course, right? So don't give him the opportunity. Number 2, with this question, you are focusing on an information that can make the difference in the short term. But you want to become a long-term partner, right? To do so, that's not the most relevant information. And the third and last reason is your biggest mistake. You try to use a potential resume, a potential CV to convince them to listen to you. In other words, you sell CVs because you can't sell your services. And if you do it this way, they will see you as a CV sender and you won't stand out, which often result in a low commitment and a poor relationship. And this is what my latest video on why a company should work with a staffing agency is all about. And if you didn't watch it already, I will link it at the end of this video. Because if you don't understand your value, then you can't sell your services. And mainly a company works with a staffing agency for 4 reasons. It is urgent, we don't have enough resources or tools, we don't have the expertise or know-how internally, or we can't find a profile by ourselves, it is too niche. So I always build my questions around those 4 topics. So the first step to handle this objection is to ask open questions. I want to open the discussion. So for that reason, my first question will always be why? Why don't you work with staffing agencies? And usually I will have answers such as, well, that's our policy, or we manage to find all our profiles by ourselves, etc. And here, depending on the context, depending on how the conversation goes, I have 2 different approaches. With my first approach, I want to demonstrate my value. So my reaction will be something like, okay, that's cool. Really, that's impressive that you managed to find all your profile by yourself because that's very challenging, so well done. I have a question though. How will you do if tomorrow you need an urgent replacement? That's business critical, but your TA team, they need more time. Or if there is a peak of activity that your team can't absorb, or if there is a profile that really you can't find by yourself. Because those situations can literally happen to any company. And that's what we do. We help them when it happens. And from my experience, we are very happy to already have a partner that you know and trust when it happens, rather than having to find one while you are under pressure and in a rush. You seem to have a great TA team, as most of our clients, and that's great. But there will always be candidates out of your reach because the profile is too niche because of time constraints, etc. So what about we plan a 30-minute call where I can explain you why we will be the right partner for you when needed. With the second approach, it's more about demonstrating my market knowledge. Let's say the prospect says, we don't work with agencies because we find all our profiles by ourselves, and you know, because you know your market, that it is almost not possible. Most likely, they use agencies. Then if you know it, use your market knowledge. You want to show them that you know what you are talking about. So when the prospect says, we find all our profiles by ourselves, my question will be, all of them? And probably they will answer yes, right? And my reaction will be, okay, from what I understand, you are recruiting the following profile. And we know firsthand, especially if you are recruiting employees, that it is not possible to find them all by yourselves. I know it because we are helping similar companies, some of them being your competitors. And we know the challenges they are going through. And you can name one of those challenges, for example. Let's say most of the profiles within this market are freelancers, for example. And I also know that to keep your competitive edge and to meet your deadlines to deliver your projects, you can't afford to be left behind in the war for talent. You are probably contacted by a lot of staffing agencies, and I get it. But our approach here is very targeted. I don't call you by accident. I'm calling you because I know what are your challenges and how I can help you. So what do you think? Do you want to know how we can help? You see, the most important thing to understand here is that you can't only build your pitch around a CV. You need to know your value so you can sell your services. And this is exactly what I'm teaching you in this video.